Hello and welcome to Wine and Chedda, the financial literacy show where we sip wine and discuss finance. My name is Nikki and I'm a financial wellness coach.
And I'm Tara and I'm a CPA and financial educator.
Today we have another learn and sip for you guys. So grab your pen, your paper, and your glass of wine. As Tara mentioned in our last episode, U.S. banks bring in about $35 billion annually in overdraft fees alone. The bright side to this is there are some things we can do to change this, which is why for this episode, we're going to give you guys 5 tips on how to prevent overdraft fees.
Tip number 1, don't opt in. Your bank doesn't have to front you the money and approve transactions that are going to put your account in the negative. Instead, they can simply decline the transaction. If you're not sure whether or not you have overdraft set up, give your bank a call. It's important to note, however, that just because you don't have overdraft set up, that doesn't mean you're going to avoid paying any fees. I called Bank of America, which is where I bank, and the rep told me that even if you don't have overdraft set up and a transaction is declined for insufficient funds, you have to pay a $35 NSF fee. Also, you might get hit with another fee from the merchant that was trying to authorize the transaction. Essentially, this is the same as bouncing a check.
Tip number 2 is to link your checking account to a savings account. So I actually have mine set up so that if there's not enough money in my checking account, it will pull from another account. If there's not enough in that one, it'll pull from another one. If there's not enough in that account, I want to say that the account or the transaction will just be declined. I'm not 100% sure. It's never happened to me, and the plan is to keep it that way.
Tip number 3 is to set up alerts. Most banks will allow you to set up email or text alerts if your balance gets too low. Bank of America automatically does this at $25, but feel free to adjust it as you see fit. The rep that I spoke to at Bank of America also told me that if your account is overdrawn and you're able to transfer money from your savings into your overdrawn checking account by 10 p.m., then you will avoid paying any fees. Similarly, if you can get to an ATM and deposit the money by 8 p.m., then again, you pay no fees.
Tip number 4 is ask for forgiveness. Did you know that a few banks will waive 1 or 2 of your overdraft fees per year? If you happen to have a slip up, just call your bank and ask if they will refund you that money just this once. So a little story time. My first job was at a credit union, and I want to say they didn't have a rule on the number of overdraft refunds that you could get per year. One of my coworkers, and this was after I had left, she was refunding her homegirl like mad fees. So she ended up getting fired because of this, and then as a result, the credit union put in a hard 1 refund per year for everybody. It really only takes one person to ruin a good thing, unfortunately.
Tip number 5, monitor your account. The only real way to avoid paying any overdraft fees is to make sure that you're checking your account. Even if you have low balance alerts set up, you still might want to log in a few times a month just to make sure the money that you thought you had is actually still there. Alright, so here are your to-dos. The first one, check and see what your bank charges for overdraft fees and for NSF fees. Number 2, check your account and see how much you paid in overdraft fees year to date. And because we practice what we preach at Wine and Chedda, we've done the same thing. As I mentioned, Bank of America charges a $35 NSF fee, and they also charge a $35 overdraft fee. And year to date, I have paid $0 in overdraft fees. Nikki, what about you?
According to PNC, their overdraft fee is $36 per item, and their NSF fee, which they call a returned item, is also $36.
What about overdraft fees year to date?
Oh, overdraft fees year to date is 0. I don't play those games. Thank you all so much for tuning into this episode of Wine and Chedda. Make sure you leave a comment below with the answer to your to-dos, like this video, and subscribe. Until next time, cheers. Tip number 2 is to...
3?
No, tip number 2.
Oh, you're right.